Captain June Taemin stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the stars. The Inevitable Justice was a big warship, but today it felt quiet and peaceful. For 3 years now, there had been no wars, no battles, no emergencies, just patrol, duty along the outer edge of human space. Taemin was 45 years old and had gray hair at his temples. He had fought in many battles, but he liked these quiet times too. His crew was relaxed. They played cards in the mess hall and told jokes over the radio. It was good to see his people happy. "Captain," called Lieutenant Choi Min-ho from his station. "I'm getting something strange on the communications array." Taemin walked over to look at the screens. Min-ho was young, maybe 28, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had been with the ship for 2 years and was good at his job. "What kind of strange?" Taemin asked. "It's faint, sir. Very faint. But it looks like a distress signal." Min-ho adjusted the controls and the signal got a little clearer. "It's not in any human language, but there are universal math patterns embedded in it." Taemin felt his stomach tighten. Universal math patterns meant one thing. Someone was asking for help using the old emergency codes that every space-traveling species knew. "Where is it coming from?" "The Kepler 442 system, sir. That's way outside our territory. It's in Valthara space." The Valthara. Taemin knew about them. They were peaceful plant-eaters who never fought anyone. They lived on beautiful worlds covered in forests and farms. Most humans liked the Valthara because they were kind and gentle. "Get Dr. Kim Woo-jin up here," Taemin ordered, "and wake up Yang Yun-soo from the language department." Dr. Kim arrived first. He was a thin man with thick glasses who studied alien life forms. He looked at the signal data and frowned. "This is definitely a cry for help, Captain. The mathematical structure is perfect. Whoever sent this knows the universal emergency protocols." Yang Yun-soo came running onto the bridge, still pudding, on her uniform jacket. She was the ship's language expert and could speak 12 different alien languages. "You need me to decode something?" "Yes," Taemin said. "Work with Dr. Kim. I want to know exactly what this message says." The two scientists worked together for 30 minutes. Taemin watched them point at screens and talk in low voices. Finally, Dr. Kim looked up with a worried face. "Captain, we've got fragments of the message translated. It's not good." "Tell me." Yang Yun-soo read from her notes. "We're getting phrases like, 'The burning has started,' 'children crying in darkness,' and 'the harvesters have come.' The timestamp shows this message is only 6 hours old." Taemin felt cold. Harvesters. That was what some of the cruel alien races called themselves when they attacked peaceful worlds. They didn't just conquer. They took everything. Food, people, resources. They left nothing behind but empty planets. "Sir," Min-ho called out, "I'm detecting something else about this signal. It's coming through on frequency 2847.3. Taemin's blood froze. Frequency 2847.3 was an old human emergency channel. It hadn't been used in decades, but every species in the galaxy knew about it. If you needed help from humans, you used that frequency. It meant someone had specifically called for the Deathworlders to come and save them. Get me Admiral Park." "So young," Taemin ordered. "Priority channel, right now." It took 10 minutes to establish the connection to fleet headquarters. Admiral Park So Young appeared on the main screen. She was a small woman with steel-gray hair and the hardest eyes Taemin had ever seen. She had been fighting battles since before he was born. "Captain Taemin," she said, "what's the emergency?" Taemin explained about the signal, the translation, and the frequency. Admiral Park listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "The Valthera," she said slowly. "I remember them. During the Scorpion War, pirates attacked one of our colony worlds on Kepler 186b. We were too far away to help. The Valthara sent their medical ships and saved 8,000 human civilians. They asked for nothing in return. What are your orders, Admiral?" "Stand by, Captain. I need to check something." The screen went dark. Taemin waited with his crew. Nobody spoke. They all knew that humans had a rule about not getting involved in alien wars. It wasn't their business, and it kept human worlds safe. But the Valthara had helped humans once. That changed things. 20 minutes later, Admiral Park came back on screen. With her was Intelligence Officer Bae Dong-hyun, a quiet man who knew everything that happened in the galaxy. "Captain," Admiral Park said. "Officer, Bae has some important information." Bae cleared his throat. "The Valthara Confederation has 17 worlds with a total population of about 4 billion. They're farmers and artists. They have no military to speak of. According to our sources, they've been sending diplomatic messages for 3 weeks, asking for help from the Galactic Council." "What kind of help?" Taemin asked. "They reported attacks on their outer colonies, ships disappearing, settlements going dark. The Council told them it was probably pirates or equipment failures. No one took them seriously." Admiral Park leaned forward. "But we're taking them seriously, aren't we, Captain?" "Yes, ma'am. They called us specifically. They used our emergency frequency." "Exactly. And there's something else. Bae, tell him about the intelligence report." Bae nodded. 3 days ago, our listening post at Wolf 359 intercepted a transmission from the Krexthu Empire. They were bragging about a successful cleansing operation in the Outer Rim. They specifically mentioned that even the famous human Deathworlders wouldn't risk war to save a few plant-eaters. Taemin felt anger start to burn in his chest. The Krexthu Empire was known throughout the galaxy as a brutal military force. They believed that weak species deserved to die. They had tried to demand tribute from human worlds once, 30 years ago. That hadn't gone well for them. "Admiral," Taemin said, "what are your orders?" Admiral Park looked at him for a long moment. "Proceed to the Kepler 442 system. Use stealth protocols. Find out what's happening to the Valthara. Report back immediately." "Understood. And Captain? If someone is hurting our friends, I want to know about it. The Valthara saved human lives once. We don't forget debts like that." The screen went dark. Taemin looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for orders. These were good people who had chosen to serve on a human warship. They understood duty and honor. "Lieutenant Minho, set course for the Kepler 442 system, maximum stealth. Dr. Kim, I want you monitoring all communications. Yang, keep working. On that message, I want every word translated." "Yes, sir," they all said together. As the inevitable justice turned toward distant stars, Taemin thought about the Valthara, gentle people who grew beautiful gardens and created art, people who had risked their own ships to save human children they had never met. Now someone was hurting them, someone was killing them, and they had called for help using humanity's own emergency frequency. The peaceful time was over. The inevitable justice moved through space like a ghost. Captain Taemin had ordered full stealth mode, which meant the ship was nearly invisible to sensors. It took them 18 hours to reach the edge of Valthara space. What they found made everyone on the bridge go silent. "Captain," whispered Lieutenant Minho, "you need to see this." The main screen showed 3 star systems that should have been full of life. Instead, they saw the orange glow of burning planets. Entire worlds were on fire. The radiation detectors were going crazy with signals that meant only one thing. Nuclear weapons had been used here. Lots of them. Dr. Kim Woo-jin stared at his readings with shaking hands. "Captain, I'm detecting the signatures of orbital bombardment. Someone has been systematically destroying these worlds from space." "How many planets?" Tae-min asked quietly. "All of them, sir. 15 worlds in 3 systems. The population records show these systems had over 2 billion Velthara living on them." Dr. Kim's voice cracked. "I'm not detecting any life signs." "Yang." Yunsu looked up from her station with tears in her eyes. "Sir, I've been monitoring communications. I'm picking up Krexthu military frequencies. They're talking about harvest completion and processing efficiency." Taemin felt ice in his veins. The Krexthu Empire, he should have known. They were the galaxy's worst nightmare. A species that believed only the strong deserved to live. They had been quiet for years, but apparently they had been busy. "Take us deeper into the system," he ordered. "I want to know exactly what happened here." As they moved closer, the sensors picked up more details. The planets below had been beautiful once. Now they were scorched rocks covered in the ruins of cities and farms. The Vilethara had grown food for half the galaxy on these worlds. Now there was nothing but ash. "Captain," called sensor operator Han Ji-woo, "I'm detecting a ship signature in the asteroid field near the 4th planet. It's very faint." "Is it Krexthu?" "No, sir. The design matches Velthara refugee vessels. Taemin's." Heart jumped. "Survivors?" "Possibly. But the ship appears to be damaged and drifting. Take us to it. Prepare a rescue team." The refugee ship was small and broken. Half of its hull was melted from weapon fire. It was tumbling slowly through space, clearly out of power. Tae-min led the rescue team himself, along with Dr. Kim and medic Han Ji-woo. Inside the ship they found horror. The corridors were burned and twisted. Bodies floated in the zero gravity. Vilethara who had been shot while trying to escape. The Mayer. Rescue team moved carefully through the wreckage until they heard something that made them run. Crying. In the back of the ship, they found 17 Vilethara still alive. They were huddled together in a storage room, scared and starving. Most were wounded. All of them were terrified when they saw the humans. "Please," whispered an old Vilethara in broken galactic standard. "Please don't hurt us. We have nothing left to take." Dr. Kim knelt down slowly and spoke in the gentlest voice he could manage. "We're not here to hurt you. We received your SOS signal. We came to help." The old Vilethara stared at him with wide eyes. You are the humans? The Deathworlders?" "Yes. We're here now. You're safe." The old Vilethara began to cry. "They said you would not come. The Krexthu said even the famous humans would not risk war for plant-eaters like us. Back on the inevitable justice, the survivors were given medical care and food. The old Vilethara, who said his name was Ithmarin, was the only one who could speak Galactic Standard well enough to tell them what had happened. Yang Yun-su worked as translator while Ithmarin told his story to Captain Tae-min and his officers. "They came without warning," Ithmarin said. "Hundreds of ships. We tried to surrender immediately. We have no weapons, no armies, but they did not want surrender. They wanted elimination." "Why?" asked Dr. Kim. "The Vilethara never hurt anyone." Ithmaran's voice was full of pain. "The Krexthu commander spoke to us before the killing began. He said weak species make the galaxy weak. He said they were doing the universe a favor by removing us. They called it Purification. Timon felt his hands clench into fists. Tell me about the attacks. They did not just kill us quickly. They took the children first. The Krexthu said young ones were valuable for their processing centers. They took them alive. Ithmeren's whole body shook. We could hear them screaming on the communication channels. The bridge went completely silent. Even the ship's computers seemed quieter. They took our organs, Ithmeren continued. Velthara biology is compatible with many species. They said we would be more useful as spare parts than as living beings. They turned our farms into harvesting facilities for bodies. Dr. Kim had to leave the room. Taemin heard him being sick in the corridor. The worst part, Ithmeren whispered, was when they showed us recordings. They have done this before. Dozens of worlds, hundreds of species, all the peaceful ones, all the ones who could not fight back. How did you escape? Asked Yang Yunsu. This ship was carrying supplies to a mining station when the attack began. We hid in the asteroid field for 3 days. When we finally tried to send a distress call, the Krexthu found us. They damaged our ship, but did not destroy it completely. Their commander said he wanted some survivors to spread word of what happens to weak species. Taemin stood up. Ithmeren, I need you to answer one more question. The Krexthu commander, did he mention humans specifically? The old Valthara nodded sadly. He laughed about it. He said the famous Deathworlders were too smart to risk their comfortable lives for a few plant-eaters. He said humans only cared about humans. That was the breaking point. Taemin walked to his communication station and opened a priority channel to Admiral Park So-Young. When her face appeared on screen, he spoke in the calmest voice he could manage. Admiral, I need to speak with the AE. High Command immediately. We have 17 survivors and a complete report on what happened here. How bad is it, Captain? 3 star systems. 2 billion dead. Systematic genocide with torture and harvesting operations. And Admiral, they specifically mentioned us. They said humans wouldn't care enough to respond. Admiral Park's face went completely still. Transmit all data immediately. I'm calling an emergency session of the High Command. There's one more thing, Admiral. The Krexthu are still operating in this area. They have a fleet of several hundred ships conducting what they call purification operations on peaceful species throughout this sector. How many species? Taemin looked at his notes. According to Ithmeren, they've hit at least 12 different civilizations in the past 6 months. All non-aggressive species. All completely defenseless. Admiral Park was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was like ice. Captain, maintain your position and continue gathering intelligence. Do not engage the enemy under any circumstances. Is that understood? Understood, Admiral. And Captain, start thinking about what kind of fleet we're going to need to deal with this situation. The communication ended. Taemin looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all staring at him with the same expression. Anger. Cold, deadly anger. Sir, asked Lieutenant Minho, what are we going to do? Taemin thought about the Valthara children being taken to processing centers. He thought about 2 billion peaceful farmers being turned into spare parts. He thought about the Krexthu commander laughing about human cowardice. We're going to remind the galaxy why they call us Deathworlders, he said quietly. In the medical bay, Ithmeren was sleeping for the first time in days. He was safe now, protected by human weapons and human determination. But in his dreams, he could still hear the children crying. Soon, the galaxy would hear something else entirely. The sound of humanity going to war. Admiral Park So-young sat in the emergency meeting room with 11 other members of the human high command. The room was deep underground on Earth, protected by layers of metal and rock. These 12 people could make decisions that would shake the galaxy. "Gentlemen, ladies," Admiral Park began, "you've all seen Captain Tayman's report. 2 billion Vilthara are dead. 12 other peaceful species have been eliminated. The Krexthu Empire is conducting systematic genocide, and they specifically challenged us to do something about it." Fleet Admiral Oh Kyung-soo slammed his hand on the table. He was a big man with scars from the border wars. "They killed children and turned them into spare parts. They tortured farmers and artists. This isn't war. It's extermination." Diplomatic Corps Director Shin A-ri held up her hand. She was older than the others and always tried peaceful solutions first. "Admiral Oh, I understand your anger, but we have to consider the consequences. If we attack the Krexthu Empire, other species might see us as aggressive. We could start a galaxy-wide war." "With respect, Director Shin," said Intelligence Chief No Junseo, "the galaxy-wide war already started. The Krexthu began it when they decided peaceful species should die. We're just deciding whether to finish it." Admiral Park activated the holographic display in the center of the room. It showed a map of the galaxy with red zones marking Krexthu attacks. "This is what we're dealing with. In 6 months, they've eliminated 17 civilizations. All of them were peaceful. All of them asked for help from the Galactic Council. None of them received any aid." Defense Coordinator General Kim Tae-hyun studied the map. "What's their pattern?" "They target species that can't fight back," No Junseo explained. "Agricultural worlds, research colonies, artist communities. They avoid any civilization with military capability. They're essentially hunting the galaxy's most innocent populations." Director Shin looked troubled. "But why? What do they gain from this?" Admiral Park touched a control and the display changed to show Krexthu industrial data. "According to our intelligence, they're processing the victims into biological resources. Organs for transplant, genetic material for research, even protein for food production. They've turned genocide into a business model." The room went completely silent. Fleet Admiral Oh stood up slowly. "Admiral Park, I formally request authorization for General Order 1. Everyone in the room knew what General Order 1 meant. Total war authorization. It hadn't been used in 30 years. "Seconded," said General Kim immediately. "Wait," Director Shin said. "We should try sanctions first. Economic pressure, diplomatic isolation." "Director," Admiral Park said gently, "the Krexthu don't trade with anyone except other military empires. They don't care about diplomacy. They respect only force." "Then what about a limited military response? A warning shot?" Intelligence Chief No shook his head. "Ma'am, they're already conducting active genocide operations. While we debate limited responses, thousands more innocent beings are dying. The time for warnings ended when they started processing children." Admiral Park called for a vote. "All in favor of General Order 1, total war authorization against the Krexthu Empire." 10 hands went up immediately. Director Shin hesitated, then slowly raised her hand, too. "If we're going to do this, we have to do it right. No unnecessary casualties among Krexthu civilians." "Agreed," Admiral Park said. "This is about stopping genocide, not committing it." Within 1 hour, the authorization codes were transmitted to every human military facility in the galaxy. For the first time in 3 decades, humanity began preparing for total war. The response was immediate and terrifying. On military bases throughout human space, automated systems began waking up ships that had been sleeping for years. Massive dreadnoughts powered up their reactors. Carrier groups assembled in staging areas. Weapons that had been locked away in deep storage were brought back online. Captain Lim Sung-ho received his orders while commanding the dreadnought Righteous, Fury at the Tau Ceti Naval Yard. His ship was one of humanity's most powerful warships, carrying enough firepower to level a small moon. "All stop," he ordered his crew. "Prepare for war configuration." The Righteous Fury began transforming. Hidden weapon ports opened along its hull. Shield generators came online. Manufacturing bays started producing ammunition. Within 6 hours, the peaceful-looking research vessel had become a destroyer of worlds. Admiral Kang Mi-jung was put in charge of assembling the largest human fleet since the Unification Wars. She worked from the command center at Luna Base, coordinating ships from 50 different systems. "Admiral," reported her aide, "we have confirmation from all sectors. 847 ships are responding to the mobilization order." Kang Mi-jung looked at the tactical display showing ship positions across human space. "That's more than I expected. Ma'am, there are also reports of civilian volunteers. Retired military personnel are requesting reactivation. Some merchant captains are offering their ships for support roles." The Admiral nodded. "Screen them carefully, but accept all qualified volunteers. Apparently, the galaxy's reaction to genocide is bringing out the best in our people." Meanwhile, in Krexthu space, War Commander Thulax was reviewing reports of human fleet movements. He sat in his command center on the fortress world of Gexmar, surrounded by tactical displays and communication equipment. "Humans are moving ships," reported his intelligence officer. "Several large formations are heading toward our border regions." Thulax laughed. "Let them come. We've fought humans before. They're just another prey species with better technology." "Sir, the intelligence suggests this is different. They're mobilizing their entire military. Even better. When we defeat their main fleet, they'll finally submit to Krexthu authority like they should have decades ago." What Thulax didn't understand was that humans had tried diplomacy with the Krexthu before. 30 years ago, the Krexthu had demanded tribute from human colonies. The human response had been simple: no. When Krexthu ships attacked a human mining station in retaliation, they learned why every other species in the galaxy feared the Deathworlders. The Krexthu lost 40 ships in 10 minutes. They hadn't bothered humans since then, but Thulax had been young during that conflict. He remembered only that the humans had stopped fighting after destroying the attack fleet. He interpreted this as weakness rather than mercy. Back at Luna Base, Admiral Park So-young addressed the assembled fleet commanders via hologram. Hundreds of human officers appeared as glowing figures around the conference table. "Commanders," she began, "you've all seen the intelligence reports. The Krexthu Empire has committed genocide against peaceful species throughout the Outer Rim. They've specifically challenged human resolve and mocked our willingness to defend the innocent." Admiral Kang Mi-jung raised her hand. "Admiral, what are our rules of engagement?" "Simple. Destroy all Krexthu military assets. Disable their ability to wage war. Protect any civilians, including Krexthu civilians. This is not a conquest. It's a police action." Captain Lim spoke up from his dreadnought. "What about their industrial facilities?" Intelligence Chief No answered that question. "Any facility involved in processing victims will be destroyed. Manufacturing centers supporting their military will be disabled. Agricultural and civilian infrastructure will be protected." "Timeline?" asked another captain. Admiral Park looked grim. According to our intelligence, the Krexthu are planning to attack the gentlefolk of Proxima next week. The gentlefolk have no military at all. They're pacifist philosophers. If we don't stop this, another billion innocents will die. The fleet commanders looked at each other through the holographic link. These were experienced officers who had fought in many battles. They understood the stakes. "Commanders," Admiral Park continued, "we're not just fighting for the Velthara anymore. We're fighting for every peaceful species in the galaxy. We're fighting to prove that genocide has consequences." Admiral Kang Mi-jung stood up in her hologram. "Admiral, the fleet is ready. Give us our targets." Admiral Park activated the tactical display. Red markers appeared throughout Krexthu space, showing military installations, fleet positions, and command centers. Phase 1, simultaneous strikes on border fortifications. Phase 2, elimination of mobile fleets. Phase 3, destruction of their military-industrial complex. Phase 4, occupation of their homeworld and dismantling of their government. "Estimated timeline for complete victory?" asked Captain Lim. Admiral Park looked at Intelligence Chief No, who checked his data pad. "Based on Krexthu military capabilities and human tactical advantages, 2 weeks, Admiral. Maybe 3 if they run away to their core systems." The fleet commanders began to smile. These were people who understood warfare, and they recognized overwhelming superiority when they saw it. "Commanders," Admiral Park said, "the Krexthu think they're fighting weak plant-eaters and cowardly humans. They're about to learn what happens when you anger a species that evolved fighting everything from ice ages to asteroids." The holographic conference ended, and the commanders returned to their ships. Across human space, the greatest military force in galactic history finished its preparations. Soon, the Krexthu Empire would face the consequences of their cruelty. The Deathworlders were coming. The human fleet arrived at Kylith Prime exactly at 0800 hours, ship time. 847 warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons powered up and shields at maximum strength. Admiral Kang Mi-jung stood on the bridge of her flagship, the massive carrier Thunder of Earth. Around her, tactical officers monitored hundreds of screens showing enemy positions and friendly ship status. "Admiral," reported Tactical Officer Yoon Sun-mi, "Kyleth Prime has activated their defense grid. I count 48 heavy weapon platforms, 16 shield generators, and approximately 200 fighter craft. How does that compare to our intelligence estimates?" asked Admiral Kang. "It matches exactly, ma'am. The Krexthu appear to be following standard defensive protocols." Admiral Kang nodded. The Krexthu were predictable, which was both their strength and their weakness. They followed military doctrine precisely, which made them effective against disorganized enemies. But humans had been studying Krexthu tactics for 30 years. "Signal the fleet," Admiral Kang ordered. "Begin Operation Hammerfall." What happened next wasn't really a battle. It was a demonstration. Human weapons technology had been designed by a species that evolved on a world trying to kill them every day. Earth had ice ages, asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes, and predators that could hunt in complete darkness. Humans had learned to fight back against everything their hostile world could throw at them. The weapons they created reflected this experience. The Krexthu defense platforms were built to stop conventional attacks from other military species. They had thick armor and powerful shields designed to absorb energy weapons and deflect projectiles. They had never faced human kinetic penetrators. Captain Lim Sung-ho fired the first shot from his dreadnought Righteous Fury. The weapon looked simple, just a metal rod the size of a telephone pole. but it was moving at 15% of light speed when it hit the first defense platform. The platform simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not damaged. Gone. The kinetic energy turned the entire structure into plasma in less than a microsecond. Target eliminated, reported Weapons Officer Park Jae-sung with professional calm. Around the human fleet, similar weapons fired at other defense platforms. Each shot removed a target completely. The Krexthu shield generators designed to stop energy weapons might as well have been made of paper. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Im So-hee, "we're receiving a transmission from the Krexthu commander. He's requesting negotiations." After 14 minutes of combat? Admiral Kang almost smiled. Tell him he should have thought of negotiations before he started processing children. The human fleet moved closer to Kyleth Prime. The remaining defense platforms tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't penetrate human shields. Human defensive technology had been designed to stop solar flares and cosmic radiation. Krexthu energy weapons were barely an inconvenience. Commander Lee Hye-jin led her Ghost Battalion Special Forces team to the surface of Kyleth Prime while the space battle was still finishing. Her team of 12 soldiers moved through the Krexthu, ground installations like shadows. "Target acquired," whispered demolitions expert Park Jae-sung over the radio. "Command bunker is protected by automated defenses. Disable them quietly," Lee Hye-jin ordered. Sniper Cho Yu-jin was positioned on a hill 3 kilometers away. Through her scope, she could see Krexthu guards walking patrol routes around the bunker. "I have clear shots on the perimeter guards." "Negative. We're not here to kill guards. We're here to eliminate their ability to coordinate a defense." The Ghost Battalion had been trained for exactly this kind of mission. They moved through Krexthu security systems without being detected, disabled the command center's communications, array and planted charges on critical systems. 20 minutes later, the entire Kyleth Prime defensive network went offline. "Ghost Leader to Fleet Command," Lee Hye-jin reported. "Ground targets neutralized. No Krexthu casualties." Admiral Kang received the report with satisfaction. "Acknowledged, Ghost Leader. Excellent work." In space above, the last Krexthu fighters were surrendering. The entire battle had lasted exactly 14 minutes and 37 seconds. Kyleth Prime, the strongest border fortress in the Krexthu Empire, had fallen to human forces without a single human casualty. But Admiral Kang wasn't finished. "Signal all fleet commanders," she ordered. "Kyleth Prime is secure. Begin Phase 2. Across Krexthu space, human fleets appeared at 17 different locations simultaneously. Each group followed the same pattern: overwhelming firepower, precise targeting, and minimal casualties. Krexthu military installations that had stood for centuries fell in minutes. On the Krexthu homeworld of Gexmar, War Commander Thulax watched his border defenses disappear from his tactical display one by one. In 6 hours, humans had eliminated 40% of the Krexthu Empire's fixed fortifications. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving reports from across the Empire. Human forces are avoiding civilian targets completely, but they're destroying every military installation they encounter." "How is this possible?" Thulax demanded. "Humans are just another prey species." His intelligence officer looked nervous. "Sir, I'm reviewing our files on human military capability. I think we may have underestimated them." "What do you mean?" 30 years ago, when we attacked their mining station, they destroyed our attack fleet in 10 minutes. We assumed they used their entire military force to do it. But according to these records, they only sent 3 ships. Thulax stared at the intelligence officer. 3 ships destroyed 40 of our vessels. Yes, sir. And sir, the current human fleet attacking us has 847 ships. For the first time in his career, War Commander Thulax felt fear. Meanwhile, human rescue teams were discovering the extent of Krexthu cruelty. Colonel Song Min Jun led rescue operations at a Krexthu processing facility on the planet Vextar. What his team found there would haunt them forever. The facility was enormous, the size of a city. Inside, they found evidence of systematic torture and experimentation on prisoners from a dozen different species. Worse, they found survivors. "Medical team to Sector 7, Colonel Song called over the radio. "We've got 23 gentlefolk still alive. They're in bad shape." Dr. John Haye-Won arrived with her medical team and began treating the survivors. The gentlefolk were a species of peaceful philosophers who had never hurt anyone. The Krexthu had been using them for organ harvesting and biological experiments. "Colonel," Dr. Jian said quietly, "some of these survivors have been here for months. The Krexthu were keeping them alive specifically to harvest organs slowly." Colonel Song looked around the facility with growing anger. "How many species were they processing here?" "Based on the medical records, at least 15 different civilizations, all peaceful, all defenseless." That night, Colonel Song filed his report with Fleet Command. The evidence was overwhelming. The Krexthu Empire had been conducting industrial-scale genocide for years. They hadn't just killed their victims quickly. They had turned suffering into a science. Admiral Park So-Young read the reports from all human forces with a mixture of satisfaction and horror. Satisfaction because human military forces were performing perfectly. Horror because the evidence of Krexthu cruelty was worse than anyone had imagined. "Admiral," reported Intelligence Chief No Jun Seo, "we've documented systematic genocide against at least 37 different species. The Krexthu have eliminated an estimated 20 billion sentient beings over the past 5 years." 20 billion, Admiral Park repeated quietly. "And the Galactic Council did nothing?" Most council members didn't believe the reports. The few that did were afraid to act against a major military power. Admiral Park looked at the tactical display showing human forces advancing through Krexthu space. "Well, they don't have to worry about that anymore." "Admiral, there's something else. We're intercepting Krexthu communications discussing the use of biological weapons against civilian populations. They're threatening to release engineered plagues on any worlds that resist them." That was the final insult. Admiral Park activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, all units. The Krexthu have threatened to use biological weapons against civilians. As of this moment, we are authorized to use any force necessary to prevent this. No mercy for anyone involved in genocide. No quarter for anyone who threatens innocence." Across the galaxy, human forces received the message and prepared for the final phase of the war. The Krexthu Empire had threatened to commit even greater atrocities. They were about to learn why that was a mistake. The Deathworlders were no longer holding back. 2 weeks after the first human ship entered Krexthu space, War Commander Thulax sat alone in his bunker deep beneath the surface of Gexmar. His empire was gone. His fleets were destroyed. His armies had surrendered or been eliminated. Above him, human ships controlled the sky. The war had ended faster than anyone thought possible. The Krexthu Empire, which had terrorized peaceful species for decades, had been completely defeated in 14 days. Not conquered, destroyed as a military force. Thulax looked at the final reports from his commanders. Every military installation had been eliminated. Every weapons factory had been reduced to scrap metal. Every starship capable of leaving. The system had been captured or destroyed, but the humans had done something unexpected. They had spared civilians. "Sir," reported his last remaining aide, "the humans are broadcasting a message on all frequencies. They want to speak with you." Thulax almost laughed. "I suppose I should listen to the terms of surrender." The message was simple. Admiral Park So-Young appeared on the communication screen, speaking from the bridge of her flagship in orbit above Gexmar. "War Commander Thulax," she said, "your empire is finished. Your military is destroyed. Your ability to harm innocent species has been eliminated. However, we are not here to commit genocide against your people." Thulax was surprised. In Krexthu, culture total victory meant total extermination of the enemy. Admiral Park continued, "The Krexthu people have a choice. You can learn to coexist peacefully with other species, or you can face the consequences of continued aggression. We will be watching." The screen went dark. Thulax sat in silence for several minutes, thinking about what had happened. The humans had done in 2 weeks what the entire Galactic Council had been unable to do in decades. They had stopped the Krexthu permanently, but they had done it without becoming monsters themselves. On the planet Haven, formerly the Krexthu Industrial, world of Bextar, human reconstruction teams worked alongside Vialthara survivors to build something new. The planet had been a processing center where millions of innocent beings had been killed. Now it was becoming a memorial and a new home. Engineer Corps Director Moon Jae-min supervised the terraforming project. Human machines were turning the poisoned soil clean again. Atmosphere processors were removing the toxins from the air. Within a year, Haven would be a garden world. "Director Moon," called his aide, "the Vialthara elders want to speak with you." Ithmarin approached with several other elderly Vialthara. They were the survivors from that first refugee ship, the ones who had witnessed the destruction of their, entire civilization. "Director Moon," Ithmarin said, "we want to thank your people, but we also want to ask something. What can we do for you? We want to help. The humans saved us, protected us, gave us a new home. But we want to do more than just be rescued. We want to make sure this never happens again to anyone." Moon Jae-min smiled. "What did you have in mind?" "We want to work with humans to watch for other species like the Krexthu. We want to help protect the peaceful peoples of the galaxy." That conversation led to the Treaty of Mutual Defense, signed 6 months later. It was the first formal alliance between humans and an alien species. The agreement was simple. Humans would protect peaceful species from aggression, and those species would help humans identify threats before they could grow dangerous. Admiral Park So-Young and Elder Ithmaran signed the treaty in a ceremony, broadcast throughout the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of peaceful species attended, many of them offering to join the alliance. "Today," Admiral Park said, "we make a promise. No peaceful species will face genocide alone. No innocent civilization will cry for help in the darkness without being heard." Ithmaran spoke next, his words translated into hundreds of languages. "The humans call themselves Deathworlders. But today we learn the truth. They are not destroyers. They are guardians. They are not conquerors. They are protectors." The ceremony was attended by representatives from across the galaxy, including several former enemies of humanity. The message was clear. The galaxy had new rules now. Dr. Kim Woo-jin published his complete report on the Krexthu genocide 6 months after the war ended. The document was titled, "Never Again: Evidence of Systematic Extermination and the Necessity of Intervention." It became required reading at diplomatic academies throughout the galaxy. The report documented not just the Krexthu crimes, but also the failure of the galactic community to respond to clear evidence of genocide. It included a simple recommendation: peaceful species must be protected by those capable of protecting them. Many other changes followed the war. Captain Tae-min, now promoted to admiral, established the Guardian Protocol. Human observation posts were set up throughout the galaxy, monitoring communications for distress signals. The protocol was simple. Any species calling for help against genocide would receive an immediate response. Ambassador Yang Bo-kyung addressed the Galactic Council 1 year after the war ended. Her message was diplomatic, but firm. "Humanity does not seek to rule the galaxy," she said. "We do not want to conquer other species or build an empire. But we will not tolerate genocide. We will not ignore the systematic murder of innocents. Any species that chooses to follow the Krexthu path will face the same consequences." The reaction was immediate. 3 aggressive empires that had been planning expansion campaigns suddenly announced new diplomatic initiatives. The hegemony of Veltar, which had been enslaving weaker species for centuries, quietly began releasing their captives. Even more importantly, peaceful species began to hope again. 2 years after the war, Captain Tae-min visited Haven to see how the reconstruction was progressing. The planet was beautiful now, covered in forests and gardens where processing facilities had once stood. Velthara children played in parks built on the sites of former torture chambers. Ithmerin, now serving as Haven's elected leader, showed Tae-min around the new capital city. At the center of the city stood a memorial to all victims of genocide. Not just Velthara, but representatives of all 37 species the Krexthu had eliminated. "Captain," Ithmerin said, "do you know what this memorial says?" Tae-min read. The inscription, written in hundreds of languages, "They called for help. We answered. Never again." "It's beautiful," Tae-min said. "The words were suggested by one of your human poets, Kwon Yun-young. But the meaning comes from all of us. Every species that was saved. Every child who will grow up free because humans heard their parents' cries for help." That evening, Tae-min stood on the observation deck of his ship and looked down at Haven. The planet glowed with the soft lights of cities and farms. In the distance, he could see Velthara ships carrying supplies to help other refugee species find new homes. His communications officer, Lieutenant Choi Min-ho, joined him at the window. "Admiral," Min-ho said, "we just received a message from Earth. The monitoring stations have detected what might be a distress signal from the Andromeda system." Tae-min felt the familiar tightening in his stomach. "How strong is the signal?" "Faint, but it's using the universal emergency mathematics. Someone is asking for help." Tae-min nodded and walked back to the bridge. "Set course for the Andromeda system. Maximum speed." "Yes, sir," Min-ho said, then paused. "Admiral, do you think it will ever end? The calls for help?" Tae-min thought about that question. "I hope not," he said finally. "Sir, the day we stop hearing cries for help is the day we've stopped listening. And the day humanity stops listening to the innocent is the day we stop being human." The inevitable justice turned toward the stars, following another faint signal from the darkness. Somewhere in the galaxy, someone was calling for help. And as long as humans existed, that call would be answered. On Earth, in the deep monitoring stations, technicians listened to the cosmic background noise for signals of distress. They were patient. They were vigilant. They were ready. Because the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Genocide would not be tolerated. Cruelty would not go unpunished. And somewhere in the darkness, the Deathworlders were always watching. The universe was a little safer now, but it was also a little more afraid, because everyone knew what happened when you threatened the innocent within earshot of Earth's children. The Deathworlders would come. They would answer the call, and they would remind the galaxy why mercy and justice sometimes required the application of overwhelming force. In the end, the simple SOS that started everything had done more than summon an armada. It had awakened humanity's conscience and established them as the galaxy's guardians. And they would never stop listening for the next call for help.